Okay, let's go to Baisa. Here's the deal. This is a gewaldige siege. It's a moidendike siege. It's a Rashi siege. But like everything that ever touches, it's not just technical. It's dynamic. It has a life to it. Has a moidendike lebedikait to it. Okay. I'm going to give you a short akdama. That the Mishkan that Moshe Rabbeinu made is called the Mishkan. The Beis Hamikdash, which David Shlomo Melech made, and Ezra Sefer made, and Moshiach is called the Beis Hamikdash, right? It's the Beis Hamikdash. And in the Chumash, the Beis Hamikdash is called consistently Mishkan. It's not called Mikdash. It's called consistently Mishkan. Now, if you think about it, Bepashtis, Mishkan is lower than Mikdash, and the Rebbe, of course, has a siche that the Rambam doesn't call it Beis HaMishkan. Beis HaMikdash is called it Beis HaBchira. There's a whole sicha why the Rambam calls it Beis HaBchira. But Beklal is called Beis HaMikdash. So the difference between Shechina, between Mishkan and Mikdash is Shechina means a place Hashem rests. Kedusha means a place Hashem's Kedusha hovers. So Kedusha is higher than Shechina. So the Gemara says, and it brings it one of the footnotes here, that the Gemara says Mishkan the Ikre Mikdash and Mikdash the Ikre Mishkan. That the Mishkan is also a Mikdash. And the Mikdash is also a Mishkan, meaning the Mishkan of the Mikdash was also Kedusha, and the Mikdash of the Beis HaMikdash is also Mishkan. What's the Pshat? Pashat is Pashat. Mishkan means a Shechina, a place the Eibishter sits. When the Shechina sits, the Kedusha hovers. When the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, so the Shechina has what's called Golus HaShechina, right? Ube Pish Achem Shulcha Imchem. It says in the Geis HaTshuva, when Yidden do Avedas, the Shechina goes into Golus, what's called Golus HaShechina. If you learn the Geis HaTshuva, that's the whole basis for Tshuva. The reason we could do Tshuva is because the Lakus is in Klipa. If the Kus would go away, you can't do Tshuva for it. The Lakus is in Klipa, so that's why you can do Tshuva for it. So you have to close the door, please. So the Shechina goes into Golus, and when the Shechina goes into Golus, so the Kedusha goes away. The Kedusha goes away, right? The Shechina goes into Golus, so the Kedusha is, Lashon in Translated is, Kuchabrichu Solik Li'ela Li'ela. Kedusha goes higher and higher. Right? It goes to Zah, it goes to Atik, it goes away. Right. So there's two Madregas. Shechina is the lower Madrega, and Kedusha is the higher Madrega. And the Haba HaTalya, when the Shechina is in the Mishkan, then the Kedusha hovers. So the Gemara says, you should know Mishkan, the Ikra Mikdash, the Mikdash, Ikra Mishkan. They both have both Madregas. But Bepashtis, the Mishkan is called Mishkan, and the Mikdash is called Mikdash. And the Rebbe points out in the Siche that in every place, except the one place that our Siche is going to speak about, the Mishkan is called Mishkan. It's never called Mikdash. In the Chumash, in the Teresh B'Ksav, the Mishkan is never called Mikdash. It's only called Mishkan. It's only called Mishkan. Why? Because Bepashtis, the Torah is not speaking about the Madrege. The Torah is speaking about the name. The Gemara says Mishkan, the Ikra Mikdash, the Mikdash, Mishkan, that both have both. But the name of the Mishkan is Mishkan, the name of the Beis HaMikdash is Mikdash. So in the Chumash, in every case, the Beis HaMikdash is called Mishkan, except for one. But also, Li Mikdash, V'shachanti B'seichem, here it says Mikdash. And the Rebbe is going to be Medayik, he's going to bring a Rebbe Rayis, that when it says over here, also Li Mikdash, it doesn't mean like it says in the Achei HaKadosh, many Batei Mikdash. Now some people hold that the mitzvah of Binyan Beis HaMechira includes building shuls. It's all a part of the mitzvah of building Beis HaMikdash. So the Achei says, also Li Mikdash doesn't mean this Mishkan, it means all later Mishkanis. And the Rebbe proves that according to Rashi, that's not true. Because Rashi says that on the words V'chein Tasu. V'chein Tasu l'deiris, but he's Medayik. V'chein Tasu l'deiris goes only on the Kalim. Why? Because only the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash were made exactly to the same design and to the same scale as the Kalim in the Mishkan. Everything else is different. So when Rashi is Medayik, V'chein Tasu l'deiris only on the Kalim, is a raya that the Rashi does not hold that V'asli Mikdash means all Batei Mikdash, it means only this one. When he speaks about other Batei Mikdash being like this one, it's only the Kalim because they're exactly the same. You follow? So V'asli Mikdash goes only on the Mishkan. This Siche goes on this question. This is the code to the Siche. The code to the Siche is the word Mikdash. V'asli Mikdash, right? Now, the Siche has questions. The questions go until page 170. The Sikh has 8 pages. 3 pages is questions. When you appreciate the diuk, that the Iker Kasha of the Rebbe, of Rashi, is the word Vasli Mikdash. Because never in the Chumash, never, not once in the Chumash, does the Torah call the Mishkan Mikdash, except in this one case. So that's the Galagoizim, that chap, that the question is the word Mikdash, is going to answer all of the questions of the Rebbe. Okay, so now let's read a little bit from the beginning. From the beginning, yeah? First paragraph, right? Again, we're not learning all the kashas. I'm going to talk out some of the kashas, and we're going to go straight to the terutzim, okay? From Pasuk B'tchilas Pasha says, the Pasuk at the beginning of our Pasha says, V'asu li mikdash, make for me a sanctuary, V'shachanti b'soicham, and I will dwell amongst you. Is Rashi maitik divert? Rashi quotes the words v'asu li mikdash, and mefarish v'asu lishmi. Right? Beis Kiddush. V'asu li mikdash v'asu li mikdash v'asu lishmi beis Kiddush. Now I want you to know one of the go'inish chaps of the Sikha is that you shouldn't pronounce it Beis Kedusha. You should pronounce it Bayis Kedosha. That's one of the Chedushim of the Rebbe in the Sikha. In other words, when you learn the Terutzim, he's going to change it from a Shuruk, from a Malupin, to a Chaylam. The answer Asli Mishra is Kedusha, as we all read it, Bayis Kedosha. It's part of the Rebbe's answer. Okay, you'll see it later on in the Sikha. Now, what most people understand is that V'asu li means Lishmi. The word V'asu li means Lishmi. And Mikdash is Bayis Kedusha, okay? So the Rebbe points out that the Rashi is answering to the Yukim in one Rashi. It should say V'asu li Lishmi, and then a separate Dibber Amaschel, Mikdash Beis Kedusha. Nochadiyuk, you don't need the word V'asu. The word V'asu is not a part of the Rashi. The only part of the Rashi is on the word Lishmi. The word Li, it should say Lishmi, and on the word Mikdash, it should say Beis Kedusha. Okay, this is some of the kashas. But the beauty, the developed kashas is that we find 3 translations to the words Vasuli. Vasuli. The simplest type of Vasuli is Bishvili. Do it for me. The Rebbe brings Rayas on top of page 168. In the bracket, the Rebbe brings Bishvili Litzarchi. The simplest translation of Vasuli is do it for me. Okay? A deeper translation of Asuli, which has a mocked already in Parshas Teildes, is V'asuli, you should make it from my money. V'asuli, take my wealth and make it. And what's the raya that the Rivka said to Yaakov Avinu? Kach li misham, shnei godoye izim, so rachak li misham, mishalihe. So there's different translations of the word li. Li could mean bishvili, for the sake of me. Li could mean from my wealth. Why? Because 5 psukim before it says Yikli Truma, Yitn gave Truma, and when they gave Truma, the money became hektish. So you can Li, take from my wealth, which you already makdish when you donate to the Beis HaMikdash, and build me the Beis HaMikdash. But the Rashi doesn't say either. He doesn't say Li means Bishvili. He doesn't say Li means Mimamoini, Mishali. He says Li Lishmi. And the reason it's a kasha is because of the words V'yichuli Trumi also said Lishmi. So once people donated Zalva Kesef in a case of Lishmi, so then it's already the Eibishter's. It's already Kedusha, it's already Hektish. So you're taking Hektish, making Hektish again. You understand the question?
Saying you're taking, if you take regular Zohar,
then
now make it for me.
Right. But they already donated it. L'shem l'gavoya, so it became hektish in the beginning of Pashas Truma. So when it says later of Asuli Mikdash Rachatil Lishmi, they're making Lishmi out of something which is already hektish. So the Rebbe says it doesn't make any sense. It's already the Eibishter.
It's the higher level.
Huh?
The higher level.
Okay. But in Pshuta Shal Mikri you have higher levels. I mean, what you said is actually going to be the answer, but I'm just telling you the thought process, the kashas. There's other kashas as well, but that's more or less the kashas that's neged to us, okay? Now, one of the diyukim that they bring is that v'asu li mikdash means you should make for me a holiness. So they translate bayis kedusha, bayis beis kedusha. Why? So some of the achreinim say v'asu li mikdash means the kasha is we have no control over kedusha. The Eibush has control over kedusha. So you make for me a holiness. How can you make me for holiness? So he said, no, bayis kedusha. You make the house. The Eibush is going to bring the kedusha. And the Rebbe's doichadis lagamre. The Rebbe says the lashon tzadachi in gadol 169. The second paragraph at the bottom is tzadachi in gadol. On this kasha, the Rebbe says tzadachi in gadol. This svara that the kasha was that a yid cannot make kedusha, and therefore Rashi has to answer the bayis kedusha. He make the house and the kedusha was Eibush. On this, the Rebbe says tzadachi in gadol. Anyway, this is an overview of the kashas. Okay, this overview of the kashas. The most basic kasha is it should be two different dibur hamaskos. V'asuli lishmi, mikdash beis kedusha, and the word v'asu shouldn't be there. Why is it in one dibur hamaskos? Why is the word v'asu there? The shenis lishmi, he already said in the beginning of the pasha. V'choli truma. Why is he saying lishmi again in the same mitzvah? And we know that lishmi could mean from the Eibishter's wealth. Lishmi could mean for the Eibishter's sake. And Rashi is like, no, lishmi. So what's the lishma if you're taking wealth which already belonged to the Eibishter? Okay. So we go to page 170 and we start the answers, okay? You're Levi, you're not always by the Shia. You're a Levi, right? So your name I forgot, but that you're a Levi, I remember. I taught some of your kids, Medrash Sekiyat Tzedek. But we learned the Sikha wickedness. We overview the questions, and this way we're able to learn the Sikha. If we sit on the questions, we'd never finish. Der bir b'chol the teretzes, and it's just so gorgeous. It's poshet a nice sikha. What can I say? It's a nice sikha. I had to learn the sikha early. Usually learn the sikha at 9 o'clock, but I knew how to make the siyum. So the sikha in my house. I came upstairs. In 2 minutes, I chazed the whole sikha for my wife. If you chaz it quick, it's a simon that it's lichtik. It's such a beautiful sikha. It's really gorgeous. The shayle ikis vas Rashi kum farenshim epirusha. Rashi's big question is not the word li, and it's not the word li vaso. It's the word mikdash. Vi passed the losh mostly mikdash. Why does the Chumash, the Eibush, say, makes me a sanctuary? The nomen mikdash batzitzich, the word mikdash relates, doch, so Beis HaMikdash Yerushalayim, Beis Yerushalayim. U'b'l'shein ha'kos b'pashas b'shalach, we already have in pashas b'shalach, v'hanach ha'losacha mikdash adnai kein yodecha, goes on the Beis HaMikdash. And by the way, the Rebbe brings that Rashi named on b'pashtas, that the word mikdash means Beis HaMikdash, and the chiddush is not the word Beis Kedusha like they wanted to say, but the word mikdash is Moshiach to the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. We're talking about the Beis HaMikdash in the Midbar, and like I told you before, that the Rebbe explains, he argues and he proves that in Pshutei Shel Mikra, we don't learn that v'asu li mikdash is a mitzvah klalos. I think that Rambam holds that. That Rambam holds v'asu li mikdash means make for me many shuls, including a shul, a holy place, a sanctuary. But Rashi doesn't hold that. Rashi holds v'asu li means only the Mishka. And the raya is that the only place where Rashi says l'deirus is v'chein tasu, and it goes only on the Kli HaMikdash, for the simple reason that only the Kli HaMikdash remained the same in the Beis HaMikdash. Everything else changed. So the Rambam doesn't say that you should make other Batei Mikdash like this one because they're going to be different. So when it says for Asoli Mikdash, it means Dafka, this one only. Says the Rebbe was the Angerufen Bekosu B'Shei Mishkan. Every place in the Torah, it's called Mishkan. The only place where the Mishkan is called Mikdash is right here. That's Rashi's Kashe. Will be a state gleich and the pasuk shel Yachar. The very next pasuk it says, Eis Tavnas HaMishkan. So all over the Chumash, Hashem calls the Mishkan She'asa Moshe Mishkan. Why all of a sudden it's called Mikdash? That's what's bothering Rashi. Now, top of the second column, there it brings Achayim, right? You see the Achayim I mentioned to you already? And the Rebbe says in the second paragraph, Rashi is a b'sheilul de'pirush. Rashi does not agree with the Achayim, and I think that Rambam holds a similar thing, that also Mikdash means every Beis HaMikdash. Rashi holds it means just this one. Okay? Huh? Only the Mishkan. So Rashi has a kasha. In the Torah, the Mishkan is called only Mishkan, And if in the Torah the Mishkan is called only Mishkan, why in this one case does he call it Mikdash? That's Rashi's kasha. Okay? 171, first full paragraph. Rabbi say, I just skipped the pircha of the Eir HaChaim because I already talked it out. The kasha and Teres HaChaim I told you in the Agdama. Rashi has a new question. Again, this is what I always call the chiropractic shift, What's the kasha? Lili Shmi have Lili Shma before, base Mikdash instead of something else. The kasha is the word Mikdash. And the kasha is the Pashita. In the Chumash, the Mishkan is always called Mishkan. Why in this one case is it called Mikdash? To answer this question, why the Mishkan, which is always called in the Chumash Mishkan, in this one case, it's called Mikdash. Favos ver da der Mishkan angerof Mikdash. Why in this instance the Mishkan is called the Mikdash? Is Rashi mefarish as Mikdash and then Pasuk mean Beis Kedusha? The translation is the word Mikdash doesn't mean a house, doesn't mean the Mishkan. It means a holy house. Der Wort Mikdash, the word Kedusha over here is nit al shem dava makutz and Beis HaMikdash. The word Mikdash does not mean a Beis HaMikdash. Or to say it in other words, the word Mikdash is not a shem davar. Mishkan is the name of the house, right? The house that Hashem lived in the Midbar, its name is Mishkan. Mikdash is the name of the house. The house Hashem lived in Yerushalayim is called Mikdash. Rashi wants you to know that it says over here Mikdash, it's not the name of the house. Because if it was the name of the house, it would say Mishkan. So if it's not the name of the house, what does Mikdash mean? Yeah? Not als Abteich Wort, it's a translation word. Ashem Ateir Utchuna von Azach. It's a descriptive name that gives the character of something. Abayis Shel Kedusha. Listen. A home of holiness. Nit shel chayil, not ordinary. Was das passt auf ein Mishkan, Punkt auf ein Beis HaMikdash. If the word Mikdash is not the name of the house, but it's the character of the house, so the name of the house is Mishkan. The character of the house is that it's holy, and the character of the holy applies not just to the Beis HaMikdash, it applies to the Mishkan as well, and that's what Rashi's answering. But also, Li Mikdash, make this house into a holy house. Now I want you to know, you'll see later in the Sikha, the way the Rebbe is Shaila the day that we had on page 1769, with Rebbe Tzadiki and Gadol. The Rebbe says Beis Kedusha or Beis Kedusha doesn't mean a house where holiness is. No. It means where the house itself is holy.
Had it said that Asuli Mishkan,
Yeah.
what would be learning differently?
There'd be no kasha.
Yeah, but what do you
What are we gaining by saying the Asuli Mikdash?
Oh, the Rebbe's going to explain, and he said it already. That there's two madregas to the Kedusha. The first madrega is when you give the gifts. You makdash the gifts. Then you take already holy money. But this is the sikha. The holiness is only because of its value. And you make them an essence of holiness. That's the whole word. You're taking something holy. You already said l'shmi if you psukim before. And you're making it holy in the second madrega.
That's the li. I'm talking about the word Mikdash instead of Mishkan.
Yeah, because the word mikdash says it's not a house where holiness rests. It's a house, the house itself is holy. That's the difference. If we're saying Mishkan, it's a seat, and the Kedusha rests on it. Like the Mefarshim said on 169, we have no control over Kedusha, the Eibishter does. The whole word of the Rebbe is that Pum Faket, we're not making a space for holiness to rest, we're creating holy space. And that's a Kedusha on top of a Kedusha. That's going to be the teretz. Mikdash means Azach, a thing, a bias, was hotten sich, that has in itself, or that is to live, or is for the sake of Kedusha. But the far nutzt men dem Wort, euch auf a Mishkan, you use the word Kedusha, Mikdash, for the Mishkan, because we're not talking about the name of the building, we're talking about the function of the building, it's a house of holiness. Besignen Achei, in other words, the Chiddush from Rashi, the novelty of Rashi is nit in Wort bias. It's not the Pshat, v'osli Mikdash, and he says Mikdash means the Beis HaMikdash. No. In other words, some people say, what's Vasei Mikdash? Make him a holy menorah, make him a holy ring, make him a holy plate, make him a holy house. Now, we know that Mikdash means bias. And the Rebbe is Meirich, in the Psuk of Parashat B'Shalach, that the word Mikdash, we know from two Parashas ago, from Parashat B'Shalach, Mikdash automatically means a house. So the question of Rashi is not, what does mikdash mean? And the answer is bias. No. The question of Rashi is why do you use the word kedusha? And the answer is because you're not making a place for holiness, you're making a holy place. Not in word mikdash, kedusha. It's the word kedusha. As mikdash does nit Hashem davar. Mikdash doesn't mean the name of the place like the Beis HaMikdash, but rather a place that's holy. Okay? Skip the bracket. And in the bracket, the Rebbe says that when Rashi says the word bias is derech agav. Some people say the whole Chiddush of Rashi is the word bias. Well, so the mikdash means base kedusha. Says the Rebbe, no. The word bias we know from Parashat B'Shalach. We know that mikdash means a bias. It's the word. He wants you to know that the word mikdash does not mean the name of a building, it means the status of the building. Hey, aber das ist noch nicht maskim, it's not sufficient. Warum, why? There appears now, this explanation, that mikdash means a house that's itself holy, rather than a house which is going to hold holiness. Vereinfacht not as mikdash, that the word mikdash can sich beziehen zum Mishkan, that the Mishkan could also be called holy, because it was used, had a function of holiness. As bleibt aber nicht mutter, the question becomes, Farvaz sagt da der Pasuk beloshen mikdash. Why in this case? Which is what you asked, Reuben. Why over here? All over the Chumash, Mishkan means Mishkan. Of all the places, Dafka here, he chooses to use a different word, Mikdash. And we understand that Mikdash is not the name of it, but the function of it. Why over here say Mikdash? Rather than use the familiar expression in all places, which is Mishkan. So the kasha is, all over the Chumash it's called Mishkan. Here, it's not being called Mikdash, it's being described as a Mikdash. But why is that description here and no place else? Therefore is Rashi Magnim. To answer this question, Rashi prefaces. The Pirush of Asuli that it means Lishmi. The word for Asuli means Lishmi. As der Tzivoy and the Apostle to the commandment. As Nitnor of der Asiya B'chlal. The word for Asul doesn't mean to make it. Nor as the Asiya Mozai Medekavana Lishmi. The making has to be Lishmi. Unkdei zu Mazbezain. In order to explain them did for Asuli. V'Asul Lishmi. In order to explain the idea that the Beis Mikdash has been made li lishmi, is their pasuk when daik v'asli mikdash adds the word mikdash. Why? It says v'yichuli truma 4 psukim before, and it says lishmi already. So if the metanis that people give are lishmi, so what's the lishmi on top of the lishmi? And the answer is mikdash. Just like v'yichuli means lishmi, v'asuli means vaita lishmi. But why do you have to make it lishma if you've already donated the wealth? Lishma, and the answer is mikdash. What does mikdash mean? As you said, a kedusha on top of a kedusha. Turn the page. The hasbar in them, the pshat is azoy. In them pirish v'asol lishmi. When it says make for me, and it actually translates lishmi, it's called amalil says a base, and it's got a question. V'bal das di trumis shein given mom and hektish. When the people gave the donations of gold and silver and copper, they gave it, like the Chazal say, Meisel and Tzibah Yafa was already hektish. The Afrosha Lifnei, the earlier separate the Eibishter, if all of the wealth already belongs to the Eibishter, why do you have to take wealth which already belongs to the Eibishter and say, do it for the Eibishter, it's already the Eibishter? You should know that everything's one of the ha'aras. That when they built the Beis HaMikdash, they made it footnote 17. They made it dafke from chulin, dafke, and they only were makdash it afterwards, because they were afraid that if one of the workers of the slightest bit of hana, he'll be a mile behektish. So they made them work from chayil, and just to pay them only after the fact. Here it's exactly the opposite. It was hektish before, and the hektish before they had another madreg of hektish. It's a difference. The later, but they mikdash, they were medayik that the workers should be working dafka with chulin, and they became kaddish only after they did it. But over here, the Eibishter says li lishmi, the gifts were lishmi, and then on top of that lishmi, there's the second lishmi the mikdash.
When the base of English was built, it wasn't built. The whole thing was shmi, and it first became kedusha
Afterwards, right? They built it with chayil, yeah. The halacha is, if one of the workers is building the Beis HaMikdash, and he rests in the shade of the Beis HaMikdash, he's a mel behektish. Resting in the shade of the wall that you just put up at Hektish. You get enough of the Beis HaMikdash, but think of the Beis HaMikdash. It was not worth it. But the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan was made like this. It wasn't made like that. To answer the question of why you have to have a lishma on top of a lishma, the answer is mikdash. What does that mean? What's meant kipirish Rashi asu lishmi bayis kedusha? You're taking something which is already holy and you're making it into holier. Das was by asu. The fact that when you're doing the building of the Beis Hamikdash, you have to have an additional kavanah of lishma about money which is already hektish. Meintes hakavana neisefes. It's a holiness on top of a holiness. Beis kedusha. You'll see in a minute that you have to pronounce it Beis kedusha, not a house for holiness, but a holy house. Nitmar bayis shel kedusha, not only a home for kedusha. A bayis in velchem b'segefinzich nochazach, a home which is a regular home, but it has the purpose that shchir kedusha rests in it. Not as their bayis gufa is kedusha b'choilam. It's one of the Rebbe's diyukim, and this is goyness. You can't make this up. Not Beis Kedusha, Beis Kedusha. The diyuk is you're not building a house for holiness, you're building a holy house. The wealth is already holy. And you're taking this wealth and you're making that the building is not just a repository, it's not just a receptacle for holiness, it's holiness itself. It says a heilig abayis, which is a big chiddush. Because how can you make something holy? The Rebbe brought other Rishonim who say that the problem with this Rashi is that we have no control over Kedusha. We could just make the Keli, and the Kedusha comes from the Eibishter. And the Rebbe says that Rashi is punkfakert. We're literally creating the holiness. Their fun is moving, skip the brackets, if understood. As Asiyas HaMishkan, Tutuf Ashini Ikri, making the Mishkan, is making a change in the Dvarim, mit welchem hat gemacht the Mishkan, in those things which the Mishkan was made, even though they were already Kedusha. They became holy on a higher level. Geworden atel from the base kedosha. They become a house which is holy. You're taking hektish and you're being makdish it. You're taking holiness and you're making it holier. And he explains. Top of the second column, 172. Before it was used in the building of the Beis Hamikdash, it was already holy, but is kedusha given machmas dem was is einen moment hektish. Their holiness was in their value, and the meila is in wasting its worth. Aber durich v'asuli mikdash, by taking this holy money, this holy gold, this holy silver, this holy cup, the holy wool, the holy linen, and making the Beis Mikdash out of it, werden sie niskadish, they become holy, nicht nur weil sie belong into hektish, not just in the sense that they belong to hektish, nor damit vazei gufa werden genutzt, they become utilized, werden atel, become a portion of, from bias, kedosha, home which is holy. So the chiddush in this Rashi is, that Rashi holds, Jews have the ability to take something ordinary and make it holy. Not make a seat for holiness. Make it actually holy. But the trick for this is that before you made it holy, it was already holy. It was mom and hektish to start with. It was kedusha from before, but before it, kedusha was only in its worth and its monetary value, and now you're taking this kedusha and monetary value, you're making it in itself as holy. Al piza yesh leim, according to understand, it says anaf kimin lalach, it becomes halachically distinctive. It says nid genug, it's not enough. As the kavanah zayin stam lishmi, when they donated the truma to the Beis Hamikdash, the kavanah had to be they're doing it for the Shem Shema, for the Eibishter. Von Eibishter's wegen. Nor as darf sein l'shem kedusha hamishkan. It was already hektish. You have to have a kavanah pratis for the kedusha of the mishkan. So if the base kedusha, the house of holiness, the speciale, hecher kedusha, the specific higher holiness, was kum zu durch den v'oskum. You know what I'm reminded of? The halacha is that when a person tables in a mikveh for chulin or for nida, he falls into the waters of Torah. But if he wants a table for neteravai and for ma'aseh, he has to have a kavana. Doesn't have a kavana, he's not tired. If he wants the table for trum, he has to have a kavana. Person must have a kach, has a kavana. Kach kodesh have a kavana. Paras has a kavana. In other words, you could table in the mikveh and you still tell me. You table in the mikveh to eat ma'aseh, you're not allowed to eat kachim. If you do, it's mitam with the kachim. You could table for kachim kalim and for kachim kadeshim, you still tummy. You can wait for kachim kadeshim and for paras chatas, you still tummy. You have to have kavana, but you only have to have kavana in the higher levels of kedusha. When you table for nida, when you table for Chul and Paras HaKedesh, if you table for Ma'aser Sheni, let's say, no, Ma'aser Sheni is not good. Ma'aser Sheni is very high madrege. I don't know what example to give. Two Ma'aser HaKedesh. So then it doesn't matter the kavanah. Why? You table the mikveh, you're tired. Right? The idea of a special kavanah is a higher level of tara. Here you have it, the Gabi Kedusha. When a person makes something hektish, his kavanah is, I'm making it hektish. That's it. When you take something which is already hektish, and you're raising it to a higher hektish, you have to have a kavanah pratis. It's not enough that I'm giving it to the Eibishter, it's already the Eibishter's. It's giving to the Eibishter kind of way that it's not the wealth of the Eibishter, it's literally holy. And if you don't have that kavanah, it's possible. If you don't have that kavanah, it's possible. The Rebbe says it's halachic nafka mineh. They donated words to the Beis HaMikdash, and they took the wealth which was already the Eibishter's, and they made from it Beis Kedusha, that have a kavanah pratis, that this stuff is not just going to be holding holiness, it's holy itself, otherwise I have to do it again. It's felt in the kavanah. Beautiful.
Klisharish are the same way?
Huh?
Klisharish are the same way? Also for the future Beis HaMikdash? When it's made, it has to be made for Lishma or not?
I think the answer is yes, but I don't remember. I think it's a Befedish, but you have to look into it.
Because that would fit with the Asu.
That's why it's in one Rashi. Right, of course. V'asu li mikdash should be a new kavanah. Right, v'asu li, it's a different, right. That's the teretz. Why is v'asu part of the Rashi? Because it's v'asu li. There's a new lishma when it comes to asiyah. Right, that's the whole diuk. The Rebbe's kasha, why is it one Rashi, why is it not two Rashis? And why do you have the word v'asu? And the teretz is, because the whole diuk is that it's a new kavanah. And the kavanah is that not it's going to be used for holiness, it's holy itself. Now the Rebbe says two more things. First of all, a wonderful, wonderful insight in Pshutei Shel Mikra, which everybody notices.
For holiness, but it's holy itself.
Holy itself, right? It's not a kli for Kedusha, it's Kedusha.
So why does it say Mikdash this time, not Mishkan, like all the other times?
Because it's becoming behemtech dvikli truma. Since we're already dealing with Kadeshim, Mom and Hektish, and then you say, take this Mom and Hektish and make it holy, you appreciate the instruction. The instruction is you're taking something which is holy and you're making it more holy. And you have to say it now because it becomes behemshech dvikli truma. Two lishmas, one after the other.
And what does it mean they're making it holier? What is
Because before it was holy in the sense that it belonged to holiness. And if you abuse it, you have to pay for it. Now it's not belonging to holiness, it's holy. Like a cotton. Okay, ho. Vav. Thank you very much. On this basis, you can explain something else in Rashi. You listening? Yeah? In dem Wort Truma, thank you. It's okay, it'll melt. In dem Wort Truma, seine Veran zwei Pirushim. The word Truma has two translations. Number one, Pirush HaTargum, the Targum's translation, Afrashusa, to separate. And Beis, Midloshen Harama V'Agba, to pick up. Right? You have Haraman and Hanafa in Parshas Tetzaveh, next week's Parsha. Right? Asher Huram v'Asher Hunaf, Haraman and Hanafa. So basically, one is Mailamata, one is Mizah Ma'atzaf and Andarim. But the word Harama could mean to separate, and Harama could mean to lift up. Says the Rebbe Rashi b'Pirush Alatera. Rashi here is Mefarish Kepirush Targum Truma Afrasha. Rashi translates in the beginning of our parsha, Vicholi Truma, separate, not to lift up. You listening? Why? Why? Because when you donated to the Beis HaMikdash, you only separated it. When you took the hektish, you donated to the Beis HaMikdash, and you made it into a Beis Kedusha, now you're lifting it up. Gorgeous! You couldn't make it up. Unless Rashi thought it. Yeah? But we know the reason, top of page 173. What's the difference between separating something and lifting something up? Separating means the Zach is blois abgescheit, given it's simply separated from other Zach, other things that's haste. It's substantively exactly what it was before. It was gold before, it's gold now. It just belongs to God. Right. The other Sachen, der Chilik zwischen sie ist, no, the difference is, an infant shini makam reshus. First it belonged to me, now it belongs to the Eibishter. The separation is only lateral. It's not vertical. B'shas mezogt haroma, you're lifting it up. V'aisis of shina mahus, you're not just separating it and giving to the Eibishter, you're changing what it is. Die Zach is aufgehoben geworden, the matter becomes uplifted. Sie is in a hechere Orto Madrege, it's in a higher place and in a higher level. As ihr hat nicht kein Scheiches mit dem Orto Meile von die Sachen zu wissen, welche sie gewinnen frier. Meaning, Hafrasha means it's the same gold as every other piece of gold, but it happens to belong to God. Harav means it's a different gold. It's been raised up, it's put into a different category. Says the Rebbe late Rashi. Rashi holds is doses the teichen achiluk zwischen die zwei psukim. That's the difference between the two lishmas. Vichali truma lishmi, vasli mikdash lishmi. There's two lishmas.
Lifting up is also just in a different place. He doesn't say it's Melissa's change.
He does. Lifting up, it says Ashina Mos.
The thing is lifted up.
No, it's Ashina Mos. Look at the previous paragraph. Bishas mezokt ober haroma.
That's it. But the thing itself is the same.
He says is Ashina Mos.
Yeah.
The line before, second line, second paragraph. It becomes a new Matthias.
Yeah, but the explanation of that doesn't fit. He said it's in a higher level, but it's
I want to ask you a question, okay? I want to ask you a question.
just looking at the diet. That's all.
I'm asking you a question. What is the meaning of kachim?
Holy.
Kachim, not kodesh. You take an animal and you say hareizu korban. This animal has din of kedusha, right? It's kachim. So kachim means depending if it's kachim kadeshim, kachim kalam, who it belongs to. But there's a shayla of me'ilah. You could abuse it. If you abuse it, you have to pay for it. Correct? Yeah? But when you shech that korban and you eat that meat, if you do it incorrectly, you chayiv misa. Why you chayiv misa? Because it belongs to the Eibishter? I'm asking you a question. Why are you chayiv misa? It belongs to the Eibishter? What's the answer? Because it's holy food. How could food be holy? It's food. Right? Now you're a Chabadnik Nebuch, so your life is ruined like all the rest of us, yeah? But you heard about Poilishe. By Poilishe Tzadikim, there's a business for Shirayim. Now Shirayim today, I can give Shirayim also if you want. Whatever you want, you get my leftovers. But there were Tzadikim in early generations who gave someone a piece of Shirayim and they pushed it, gave him Abba V'yireh. Right? What is the meaning of the word Shirayim? Where does the word Shirayim come from? Shirayim comes from the Gemara. What's left over of a korban is called Shirayim. It's not food that belongs to holiness, it's holy food. So when you go grab Shirayim from the Helika Bel Zarov or from the Chveisin Vas, Mot Shem Tov, the Mesiras, this food is not belonging to holiness, it's holy. The Rebbe is saying that not just an animal is holy, the walls of the Beis HaMikdash are holy. They don't belong to holiness. They don't serve holiness. They're holy. When you donated the money, it belongs to holiness. When you built a house, you made it holy just like a korban is holy. Everybody is going to tell you that a korban is not the property of holiness, it's holy. There's a very big difference between those two things. The property means it's the same as anybody else's, but it belongs to the Eibishter. The Eibishter has strict rule, he shouldn't touch his food, his wealth. But we're not saying that. We're saying the food itself is holy. Rashi is saying that the types of the words of Asali Mikdash means don't make a house that belongs to the Holy One, blessed be He. Make a holy house. That's called harama. It's beyond, he says, Shina Mahus.
So first they separated it.
And then they lifted it up. And that's why the Rashi goes with V'asu. Because the Asu means it's a new kavanah. It's a kavanah pratis, like he pointed out. Unlike Rashi, is das der teichen achiluk, that's the difference between v'yicholi truma lishmi and v'asu l'mikdash v'ayta lishmi. They're literally a few psukim apart. Right?
It's the difference of making a behemoth holy and then shechting it.
Right, especially Kachim Kalam, which is Mama Bailam, but even Kachim Kaddish. The Me'ilah, the dinim of Me'ilah have to do with its monetary value. The dinim of Misa have to do with the Kachim. It's holy. It doesn't belong to holy, it's holy. The Indian for the Yicholi Truma donating stuff to the Beis HaMikdash is gegeben Mamoinim for Truma Samishkan. giving their wealth to the donations of the Beis HaMikdash, is Blaze get their frasha. They're simply taking it out of their rishus and putting it to a different rishus. Val Alpha, I'm looking footnote 44 just for fun. In the different sikha, the Rebbe says a different pshat. Okay, in Chelik Tazayin, there's a different pshat. Val Alpha Pia does the given moment hektish. When you donated, made it holy money. But holy money means it's money. It just belongs to holiness. Is up at the Yisod, the Ged, the Rakadusha, Mitadamshini, the Shos. The status of the holiness is simply ownership. If it belongs to the Holy One, it's holy money. Was is Rebbe gegangen, Mishus Hedit, Lishus Hektish. Before it belonged to an ordinary, now it belongs to holiness. When the Father is the Kedusha place. Therefore, the holiness in Truma is simply Al Derech Aniyin von Afrasha. It's not Obgeshed Gebav, it's separate other things. But the holiness is only in the sense that if you're going to abuse it, you're going to pay Keren V'Chaimish. But then, Pasuk Ches, right? V'yikuli Truma is Pasuk Beis. I'm sorry.
Keren V'Chaimish is also with money.
Of course.
Even the first level.
But you're paying for it. That's all. It's paying for it. You're paying for damaging hektish. Machon came durch Vasali Mikdash. When you make the Beis HaMikdash, and Rashi says Bayis Kedosha, not a house of holiness, a holy house. They're just building it like a carbon after the Shechita. Das was man nimmt in the Beis HaMikdash. You take the already holy wealth of the Beis HaMikdash. You make them a piece of from the Mikdash of the Beis HaMikdash itself. Das tut in ze uf aharama. It lifts them up. Ze werden aufgehoben, and they're raised up in a hechere kedusha, in a higher holiness. It's hard. This is what you pointed out. The Rebbe really says it himself. There's a kavanah protest of it. A kavanah clause is not enough. It can't have a kavanah for kedusha. There's a kavanah for this madrega of kedusha, and that's why it actually quotes the word v'yas. And the Rebbe finished with a hira. What's the hira? Every person's home has to have two levels of holiness. Number one, you have to look different than the guy around you. And number two, you got to be in a whole other world. Let's read. Fun b'teichem. What's the lesson in Avodah? And the Pashat breaks it up into two steps. Jeder eine darf machen von sein eigenen Beis am Mishkan und Mikdash le'Yisbarach. Mikdash und Mishkan, everybody has to make out of his home a seat and a holy place for the Eibishter. Make me a sanctuary, I'll dwell amongst them. And of course, I'm sure you know there's no such Razal. Right? Razal means the Midrashim. In footnote 45, he brings, the Alter Rebbe says Razal, and it's a Shalah, and it's an Alshich, it's a Reishis Chochma, but it's not a Razal. B'teicha means every single Jewish home. Every single Yid, every person's heart has to be, our soul has to be a seat for the Eibishter. Says the Rebbe, just two steps and two avodas. First of all, Truma, Hafrasha, you separate it from everybody else's. When the Nach also the Mikdash Harama, then you lift it up. So the first thing is, Kum the Aveda from Hafrasha. You have to separate yourself. Translate the Rebbe into Yiddish. Darf abschäden sein bias. A Jew must separate his home from the heiser arum from home around himself. As in sein bias, in his home, so sein kentik, it should be evident as is anders. It's a different home. It's a Jewish home. You should see it in the house. But how do you see it? That they do different things. Men tutake in im dvarim gashmi. We do physical things. We in andere batim in other homes. Aber bei ihm in this person's home, werden sie getan mit an ander Ziel und Kavanah, different end purpose, different intent. Kol masach Yilshem Shemaim. So I said it wrong. You're doing the same thing that the guy is doing it, but you can see that it's different.
Oh, the first thing is you're doing the same thing?
Yeah, you're doing the same thing as the guy, but it's different.
And you're eating, you're sleeping?
Yes. Die Maisim seien noch als Masecha, they're your own business. In Yon Echel, ordinary things. No, they werden getan l'Shem Shemaim, done for the sake of the Eibishter. Was the midan as they move from different chayef and under, it's separated from the ordinary of other people. Turn the page, please. The tachlis is what the end purpose is. As averna arama, lift it up. Vasli mikdash. First hafrasha, then arama. The stub darf aufgehoben werden. The home must be uplifted. Durch dem was man verwandelt sie, you evolve it into, you change it into, in a mikdash, not a place for holiness, into a holy place. Says Nitaken and Yoni Achel and then Bais. In this home, there's nothing ordinary. Not it's ordinary things done in a different way. It's a holy place. Not says a Bayis Kedusha, it's a holy home, or the Dia Bayis Kedusha. Not Bayis Kedusha, a home for holiness. It's Bayis Kedusha, it's a holy place. A Mikdash Baruch, a sanctuary for HaKadosh Baruch. Durch them was their bias because this home, all that's in this home, they're permeated with the candle of mitzvah and light of Torah. There's nothing about this house which is plain, beklal, in general, each detail in this home is in Yoni, the mitzvahs was then durch im getan, the mitzvahs you have to do in that place. And the Rebbe, of course, brings 49, the Gemara with Rabbi Yossi, la'eloim le'karisi le'ishti le'ishti beisi. Und durch dem, was jeder Yid macht sein Bayis, when you make your home not just a place for holiness, but a place of holiness. Am mikdash le'yizbarech, is thus the achana krev, this is the imminent preparation zum binyan Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, to prepare the third Beis HaMikdash, which is Mikdash, and we know from Rashi that Mikdash automatically means base Mikdash. Adnai Kaden and Dechel with their own hands, and the Rebbe finishes B'meheir B'meinu Mamish, and of course, in the later years, the Rebbe says, take it from Yad Mamish. In the sense in Oz Yoshim. Right. But over there means the Beis HaMikdash, doesn't mean the Mishkan. That was one of the Rebbe's kashes.
But you said the Kasha doesn't say Mikdash anywhere.
Regarding the Mishkan.